Hello, guys, and thank you for joining me, Simon from That Cov Pod here, and we're going to preview the massive game on Saturday against Middlesbrough. I'm joined by Jonny from Boro Breakdown. Jonny, first of all, thanks for spending some time previewing this game with me. Obviously, a massive game for both sides going into it. From a Middlesbrough point of view, how are you feeling about it?
I don't want it to. I don't want to play it, to be honest, Simon. I'd rather just give you the 3 points and be done with it. To be honest, we've been awful the last few weeks, and we don't look like a team we were in the winter. Definitely, when we went through that flurry of scoring 18 goals in 3 games, you're thinking, yeah, this could be it, and then it's all went downhill since. So yeah, it's going to be a very difficult game, but you know what? Given that I've just said how bad we've been, it wouldn't shock me if this was the game that we turned up and actually finally beat the curse.
That's the thing. What's that curse like from a Borough point of view? Because it feels like we do just seem to beat Borough every single time we play or get the result we need to. And obviously, this is the
Mm.
first game we've played against you without Mark Robins in charge for a while, which is probably a bit of a relief for you guys. Will it continue under Frank Lampard? We need to find out.
Is it a relief? Honestly, is it? Like, honest to God, we did beat him against Stoke, and I felt like there was just elation in our fan base of finally beating Mark Robbins. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out really, because I know that Lampard's tried to play with this 3-4-3 system over the last couple of games, and it hasn't really worked away from home. And then additionally to that as well, you're so strong. Is it won 8 out of the last 10, and the 2 being Burnley and Leeds? So that in itself is like such a big mountain for us to even consider getting a result. It's just been such fantastic home form. But that curse, it feels like under Mark Robbins, it was that box midfield, control the centre where Middlesbrough like to play. And by doing that, get us on the transition, or we'll make a mistake by playing it from the back. And then that's where the floodgates would open. And then maybe it's a bit of a mentality thing where we know that we can't beat Coventry right now, which is probably the reason why we tend to fall apart. But look, both teams have really good squads, and Middlesbrough, have had a worse squad from January by losing some really key players. But it's always been a relatively good game, normally good quality. But I think that Coventry just have more to them right now than what Boro would, and I can't see the curse lifting anytime soon.
I hope that continues on Saturday. Please do make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, by the way, guys. We're going to do more content on YouTube like this. Also, get your comments in down below, your thoughts on how the game's going to go. How nervy are you? Because it feels absolutely huge. I haven't had a game like this since the one we had probably 2 years ago, Jonny, when we went into the playoffs. Have Borough fans got over that yet, or not quite?
Probably not. No, it was probably one of those. It was probably one of those sliding doors moments, wasn't it? Because it was that season where we would. It felt like we were unstoppable at times. We were scoring goals for fun. Akpom and Archer up front, and it was such like a really good atmosphere and feel around the club. Carrick had like a 60% win rate, and the only way was really up, to be honest. And then that Hamer goal just knocked the stuffing out of us, and yeah, we just fell apart really. It felt like really deflating. Then we lost quite a lot of people in the summer. That's like about like 60 goals straight away by losing Akpom and Archer and Ramsey and all of that group. And then it was like a building season last year. And then this year it feels like just another iteration of a build. And that January window, we've just bought a lot of central players and it hasn't really worked. But yeah, in short, yeah, we're probably still reeling about it. And to be honest, it'd be lovely to finally beat that curse at the weekend and maybe put that Hamer goal to bed.
I know. I've got the shirt behind me in the background just for you, Jonny, in
I
the background, just
know.
teasing you slightly. Ian's put a comment in. He's saying, I'm bricking it. There's a twist to come. I hope I'm wrong, PUSB. Yeah, I feel like a lot of fans feel this way. It can't just be this straightforward. I mean, Bristol City losing to Leeds last night, getting hammered has kind of maybe brought them back into it. If we do draw Blackburn and Millwall, obviously back in it. It feels like a hectic final day that isn't just going to go to plan from our point of view. And obviously, Borough's attack. Let's talk about Borough's attack actually next, because I think that's a good place to be. Obviously, XG this season's been incredible. Chances created has been very good. Perhaps aren't higher in the table than you should be. You should potentially be a little bit higher according to those underlying numbers. Coventry have a big issue in goal at the minute with Brad Collins. I'm sure you saw his mistake against Luton in the last minute. That's a regular theme right now. Lampard seems to be sticking with him with Oliver Dovin out. How are Middlesbrough's attack going to cause Coventry problems here, and can they do it? And can they get enough shots on our goal to really cause us trouble?
I think it probably stems from how do you nullify Hayden Hackney really, and when you watch Middlesbrough play, everything goes through him. You've got Morris is that 6, and then you've got Hayden Hackney as the 8, who really drives Middlesbrough forward, and everything seems to come through him. So Finn Azaz will always naturally get the plaudits. His goal contribution this season with 23 is fantastic, and we do have quality. Tommy Conway's got a really good goal per minute. Morgan hasn't really hit the ground running just yet, and Kelechi hasn't really hit the ground running at all since he came in the January. And so from an attacking standpoint, we have dried up slightly, and we still create one or two chances, but everything feels centralized now. Whereas when we had Ben Dork, we had the ability to be adaptable and try and hit go down the line and get something in the box, where now it's very much we'll try and play in front of you and try and get him behind through Tommy Conway. And by doing that, it just hasn't felt right. It feels like too many people are in the same space. We're not pulling teams apart enough, and how teams have really nullified us is just trying to stay in a width outside of their own box, just about that, and just really control those central areas. And Middlesbrough will always give something up because they'll try and put too many people forward. So it's a really interesting time, I would say. It's probably the first time I've seen under Carrick where we haven't been a huge threat going forward in comparison to what we've seen in the previous weeks and months. But we'll see how it goes. Look, we'll always create a chance. We always tend to get those one or two really big moments, and we haven't been putting them away as of late. So it's a great opportunity now to hopefully see that click. I think and hope that we'll change it for Saturday, because we've had so many run of games now where we've just been nullified in that second half. So we have to try and do something this time to combat it if we want the playoffs, because if we want the playoffs is probably a key word there. But I still think we'll create chances, but in terms of being put in front of goal, I just don't think we're as strong as what we used to be.
A couple of comments I want to go through here as well. Ellis has put, the twist will be that we finish 5th. Love that positivity after Bristol City drop points. And Sky Blue Hubs put, Boro have only 2 wins in their last 9 away games. Have you seen a disparity in form between home and away, or not really?
I think just in general, our form's been pretty poor. It's been a real mixed bag since January. I think losing really key players to that. I think Emmanuel Atalath is one big loss that we had, because he offers us something slightly different up front, and then losing Ben Dork as well, like for the remainder of the season, is not ideal. And then if you add the layers of injuries of Riley McGree, who we've just not seen all season, who is being really influential in Michael Carrick's reign, that is a big problem, because you're shifting Finn Azaz out of his natural position. So there's been a real imbalance across the team, and that in itself is attributed to poor form. Manager really doubting himself, the fans starting to turn, and Boro should be a lot more comfortable than what they have been. Realistically, we should be in the playoffs already, but we're not, and it feels like a bit of a failure. A lot of fans are frustrated by it, but that form comes from that unbalance. Confidence now, and honestly, we just don't look like winning a game, and that's a big concern. And if you ask pretty much 90% of the fan base, I feel like they'd be quite happy and relieved if the season was over on Saturday.
Really, it's got that bad. There's not even a little bit of hope that you could get yourself into what I believe is quite a poor playoff picture this time around, with Sunderland losing games at will. Bristol City aren't the best team. Sheffield United are hit and miss at the best of times. It feels like there's a chance for a team to take advantage this year. Borough fans just thinking it can't be them at all.
Pretty much, yeah, which is actually bizarre to say, to be honest. We said this on our podcast the weekend, that realistically, this should be such an exciting time. It's the final day of the season. You're there or thereabouts. You're playing a direct rival, and the teams around you are all playing teams that still have something to play for, and against top 3, top 4 in the division. So everything really should be on your side to do it. But honestly, I think fans are just a bit fed up and frustrated. Nothing's really adaptable and can change. And there's just a bit of apathy and, well, are we actually going to beat Sheffield United if we finish sixth? Probably not. Even though we have beat them in earlier in the campaign, and then they thumped us at Bramall Lane, and then Sunderland have done the double over us already, and we've just been poor against them. And yeah, it's one of those things where we think, well, are we good enough to even go up? And if we do go up, we're just going to be a Southampton. So there's a lot of pessimism, I would say, to even consider promotion, I would say.
Don't want to add to your misery here, but we've got a few comments in. Josh Coburn on loan at Millwall could score a goal that could deny Borough a playoff place. Borough have only won once this season after conceding first. Sorry, won twice this season, both to Oxford. Is that a mentality issue, do you think, Jonny?
Not mentality. I would say it's a problem-solving issue. To be honest, when teams have went ahead, it's very much let's shut up shop and let's control the central areas. And with Middlesbrough, like I was saying earlier, around the personnel and the lack of adaptability within the group, we have very similar profiles out wide, and everyone wanted to play central. It's very easy to play against, and if you're a defender and everything's in front of you, you're going to build confidence. You're going to try and push them even more, make it difficult, slow the game down. And we've not found an answer to it, and you only really find that answer with different personnel and individual quality. Whereas now, like, it feels very samey. We don't really break teams down as much. We'll try and play through the thirds in a very certain way. And by doing that, when you nullify us, that's pretty much it. And then just on the Josh Coburn point as well, if he was to deny it, good on for Josh. Like, I think he needs a run of games at a side that fits him from his personal strengths. At Middlesbrough, it didn't really work, but at Millwall, it seems more that it's clicking for him, and he's getting better, and he's getting more minutes, and he's starting to improve. So good on Josh, but I think he'll be gone in the summer permanently. So yeah, I mean, good for him, and if he can do that. But yeah, for us, I don't say it's a mentality issue. It's an adaptability and problem solving issue.
Very interesting. There's two players I want to talk about as well in the Middlesbrough team. We'll come on to your predicted starting lineup in a bit. Morgan Whittaker's one that obviously caught the eye as a January signing. It doesn't feel like it's quite caught fire for him yet at the Riverside. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on, Simon. Like, he has struggled for minutes initially. We seen it with Finn Azaz last year, where it took him about 6 months to get used to what Michael Carrick wanted from him. And as soon as it clicked, he really hit the ground running, and he's been such a good asset to the side. With Morgan Whittaker, it feels quite similar. And I think with additionally, when you've got Kelechi Iheanacho in that central space with him, he's in the areas that he wants to be. So he's just not as effective. So I think it's twofold. I think it's very much, positional, trying to get used to things. And then secondly, as well, it's the team around him that doesn't really click. But when he's played with Finn Azaz, and Azaz has played more centrally, you've seen him be a lot better because obviously the time at Plymouth. But for whatever reason, we're still sticking with Kelechi in the middle, and it just doesn't really work. To be honest, he's just the wrong person for the team. It's not like he's not a bad player. He has individual qualities. He just doesn't fit. But with Whittaker, yeah, it's just going to take a bit of time. But I think over time, we've got him on a 4-year deal. He'll start to click. He'll get better and better and better. He's shown glimpses, but there's still a lot more we'd like to see from him, to be honest.
Finn Azaz is a really interesting one because his numbers are incredible. Obviously, playing in that number 10 role, it seems to be where he's been playing his best stuff. Jack Rodoni, we've got a similar number 10 on our side who's got really, really good numbers this season. It feels like quite a big omission from Carrick then to be moving arguably the best player this season out of position to fit in Iheanacho, who another January arrival who hasn't worked at all. Is there becoming more and more criticism on Carrick for these sorts of decisions?
Yeah, absolutely there is. With every defeat, there's always more scrutiny that increases for Carrick. With Azaz on that left-hand side, it makes sense because that left-hand side role it's like a second 10 in a way. And then normally your right winger would provide the width and they would try and get down the line. Whereas now it's like all three players want to play in that half space or central space. So they're all on top of each other, and then Tommy Conway goes out wide. With Azaz, it doesn't make sense at all to put him in that position. He's not really being effective at all. I would love us to play with more of an out-and-out winger and Illan Jr. on the left-hand side at the weekend, but I just don't think it'll happen. And to be honest, I think that would probably get the best out of all three of them if Illan Jr. was on the left, with Azaz in the middle, and Whitaker on the right-hand side. It would just work. It would just be a little bit more direct. Well, it would more to what we had under Carrick in that first season, and allow us to be a bit more getting down the line, knock the ball in the box to Conway, and just try something a little bit different. So, yeah, it's a bit of an omission to move him, but he's got confidence there to do it. He's still been effective in games, but he hasn't really done the job on that left hand side. It just seems a bit lost, to be honest, and it tends to see Illan Jr. be really exposed on that left hand side. But luckily for him, he's got really good recovery pace, so he tends to get himself out of it. So yeah, it's just a very difficult moment, I would say, for the team.
I think talking about those attacking players you've got, though, Wayne's put we have an injury curse again. Our defensive injuries have caused us some issues. Obviously, Milan Van Avak's probably the biggest one at the minute, hit and miss whether he'll make it for this weekend, having missed the defeat to Luton. Meant Joel Atibodier had to play right back, and he's certainly not the quickest. In fact, I think he might be the slowest player in the league. He really struggles to run sometimes. We also saw Jada Silva get sent off at Luton, meaning Bidwell will be playing at left back, and we're hoping that Bobby Thomas will be back fit for this one. All signs seem to suggest he will be. But defensively, we're looking pretty ropey. And you talk about some of the attacking talent you've got, and that's where I think we're a little bit worried heading into this one. Talking of your defence, though, why is Jonny Howson playing centre back, and why has he been so good at it?
He's been all right, hasn't he? He's been all right. He's playing there because we've had loads of injuries, to be honest. It's like the first time I think all of our centre backs are fit now this season, because, and it's hilarious that it's the last game of the season that they're all fit. And he's moved there because, we've had Lenihan's been out for the season, Dale Fry got injured, Sword Edmondson, Rav van der Berg's been injured in and out consistently throughout the year, and we sold Matt Clark to Derby in the January. So he's found himself there, and he's played there with Neto Borges, and it kind of worked for a little while because we were playing really direct teams and no one was getting him behind. But then as we've started to play more pacey teams, he started to get exposed. The reason why he's been successful at centre-back is because the game's in front of him now. He's a 36, 37-year-old midfielder, over 750 games. There's a lot of miles on the clock now for him. And it started to show, and I think with him in midfield, the game feels like it's catching up and getting past him now. So therefore, like being at centre-half, it allows him to see everything in front of him. He still reads the game really well. He still can bring the ball into the midfield if he needs to. And it's been fairly good. He hasn't been like a 10 out of 10 every week. It's just he's been decent, and that's what you expect from Howson anyway. Like being as that 6 or 7, 8 out of 10 most weeks, and that's what he's delivered. And do I see him playing centre-half at the Saturday? It depends on the fitness of probably Dale Fry and George Edmondson. Will Carrick want to put his centre backs back into a position? Probably I would, to be honest. I think that's kind of the approach to do it. And maybe we take Howson out of the fire line if that's probably the best thing to do.
I think if Howson starts, it's a real chance for Ellis Sims, who is
100%
not had a good season this season. He's received a lot of criticism rightly. I think he's scored one home goal in the last 13 months now. But he is quick, he is strong, and he should be able to bully Jonny Howson at 36 years of age, whereas up against Dale Fry or someone like that, it might be a bit more difficult for him. I've got a few more questions in here. Ian asks, will Carrick be gone after Saturday if you don't go up? I presume not, but worthy of discussion. Would Boro fans maybe like to see a change? Is it 3 years now he's been there?
Yeah, this is his second full season, and it's like a third. He's played like a season and a half, really. And he's actually, isn't he like the most longest serving manager in the Championship at this point, which I think is absolutely batshit. So yeah, it's but I think with Carrick, look, there's a lot of scrutiny under him at the moment because there's some part of our fan base which think that this squad is more than good enough for top 4 and top 5, but then within that same conversation, they're willing to get rid of 3/4 of the squad because it's not good enough. And the problem with Middlesbrough is that we've got a really high ceiling in players in terms of quality. You look at Conway, look at Azaz and Hackney and Ben Dork. But then you have a really low floor, and you've got like the likes of Anthony Dykesdale in there who, will most likely go to a lower-end championship team. Our depth players who have went out on loan, like Michael Hamilton, Alex Gilbert, Sammy Silvera can't get games for League One teams at this moment in time. And we've had a number of injuries. Dan Ballas came from Rotherham and hasn't really hit the ground running as well since he's been here and hasn't played too many games. So the gap and the difference is so big, and then that drives inconsistent results. So I think on one hand, Carrick has done a really good job. And I think with a better squad like he's shown in his first season, you'll get Middlesbrough where they need to be and play that side. But there is a lot of pressure on him. I think there's a lot of pressure. He'll probably need the result, I would say, because it will be seen across the fan base as a bit of a failure if we don't get the playoffs this season. But I expect him to be in the dugout from the first game next year. Famous last words.
Famous last words. We'll clip that up if you're wrong anyway. Sky Blue Sam's put any chance Giles starts. Obviously, Ryan Giles, someone who we had on loan, I think, in League One season. Kind of a decent attacking right back. He was on loan at Hull, wasn't he, earlier in the season and didn't get many minutes, right?
Yeah, well, when we wanted to sign him from Luton, and then he ended up going to Hull, and we were like, we really need this. We really need him to come in because we were desperate for a left back at the time, and he hasn't really done anything since he came back on loan. It's probably now that his stock's the lowest it's probably been in the last 3 or 4 seasons. So you could argue, well, it'd probably be a good sign for someone in the summer if Hull go down. I don't think he'll start, but if he was to start, you could maybe play a back five. He'd play as a wing back, and we'll see where we go from there. But Ilan Jr. for me, streets ahead, absolutely streets ahead in terms of quality. So he's been keeping Giles out of his position, and rightfully so, to be honest.
Excellent stuff. Boro haven't beaten Cov in the last 7 games. They've not won at the CBS in 8 visits, and they've not won away at Coventry since August 2000, says Sky Blue Sam. That's quite the record, but I don't like saying records like that before we play. That just feels like an omen, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely feels like an omen. I mean, keep these stats coming, to be fair, Sam, because it looks good for us, doesn't it? Like it writes its content itself, doesn't it?
Could the no pressure thing help you? Could the fact that I think there is more expectation on Cov, and your fans, you're saying there's not much expectation from your point of view. It feels like the iron could strike while you're not expecting it.
I'd hope so. I really hope so, Sam. But the pressure has been on for like the last few weeks. There's been no pressure from fans to say like, hey, like we're desperate for this, like, and we've played sides which we should beat, and we haven't. Like Sheffield Wednesday, we threw a game away when we were in the ascendancy. There's been so many games this season in general where we threw points away, but this hasn't felt like there's been pressure on the group to deliver, really. Everyone's kind of came to the conclusion of, well, we're probably not good enough to go up, or we're probably not good enough to be in the Premier League. So, it's not that bad if we don't go up. But it could work in our favour. I would love it to work in our favour. I just don't feel confident that we'll get anything, to be honest. I think Coventry will roll us over comfortably and be shaking hands and the season ends, to be honest. I just can't see us getting a result.
I hope you're right. That makes Cov fans feel a lot better because it's already a nervy week and it's only Tuesday night. It feels like this week's lasting forever already, doesn't it? Some nice comments have come in as well. Glenn says, wanted to say how good the Boro Breakdown pod is. Listen to as a neutral. Always enjoy their preview and analysis on Boro versus Cov games. We'll be tuning in again after the weekend as long as we win. Jonny, to hear your tones. Gibbo makes a very good point. All depends which Coventry turn up on Saturday for me. Too many Jekyll and Hyde performances all season long. I see us as slight favourites, but Boro could quite easily cause an upset. And Wayne as well says, I love our Middlesbrough trip. We go to a club called the Albion and always welcome there as a supporters club. I'll get your thoughts on this as well before we come to your lineup and score predictions. Is it fair to say Azaz goes missing in the big games are against the better sides? No goals are the current top 6 this season. I guess that's no goals against top 6 this season.
Yeah, he hasn't really. He's been excellent across most of the division, but in these top 6 games, he doesn't really seem to be really impactful. But that's the next step that he has to take. He's still only 22. He's still putting in really good numbers. And, as he develops, that should be the next logical step for him to be more impactful in really big games. I think people forget that he's still such a young player and hasn't, played hundreds and hundreds of games yet. There's still a long way for him to go in terms of his development. So I think you can argue that point. But I think similarly, Middlesbrough haven't really turned up in some of the games this season either. So that probably doesn't help this cause either.
Absolutely right. Average Cov fan also says never seen Cov lose to Bury yet in person. Hope the run continues on Saturday. Agree with that completely. Right, Johnny, run through what you think the predicted Middlesbrough 11 will be on Saturday, and then we'll come to your score predictions. Everyone in the comments below, please get your score predictions in for this massive game on Saturday, and then I'll give mine as well because I'm not sure I'm as confident as the other Cov fans. Go on, Johnny. Who's lining up for Boro? Do we think?
Cool. I think we will make some changes for Saturday. Personally, I would like us to switch to a back three, but I don't think we will. I think we'll go over back four. I think Howson will play at right back. I think Edmondson, Dale Fry, and Neto Borges will play left back. If not, Sammy Ellen Jr. that'll play there. Hackney and Morris will be in midfield, and then on the right hand side, I think Morgan Whitaker will play. With Finn Azaz in the middle. And what I would like to see is Ilan Jr. on that left flank. But if not, I think Delano Bergzorg will play there. And up front is Tommy Conway for us. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time for Boro. I think we definitely will make changes because currently it hasn't really been working for us.
He's a good striker, isn't he, Tommy Conway, and a good finisher as well, which concerns me again with our kind of defensive record. So you think Johnny Howson's going to play right back? Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think we'll shift. I think with Dijksteel's been appalling the last few weeks, and it makes sense that you go with experience in these games, and I think Howson will do a job there for the game. To be honest, it allows us as well to shift to a back three if we need to during the game. In possession, Middlesbrough really like to play with that, or will like to stick with a back three, go into that 3-2, and then try and push a wing back up. So that will just allow us to have that nice balance at the back. Whereas at the moment, it feels this like Dijksteel gets caught in possession, Boro get caught, we're exposed, and people have targeted him quite a lot. So I think it'd be a really good chance for Boro to push House in there for this game. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it actually works. But now that I've said that, it'll be terrible and it'll go all tits up by half time.
I'd much rather. So Hadji Wright's going to play on the left wing probably again because
Yeah.
Mason Clark's out injured, which has been a big damaging blow to us, along with Victor Torp, Milan Van Avac, and Bobby Thomas, and all these other injuries we've got. Hadji Wright on the left, I would fancy him to get the better of Johnny Howson. And you can always tell with Hadji in the first 5 minutes if he fancies it. I feel like if he runs past Johnny Howson a few times, he'll love it. Whereas Dijksteel, obviously, a completely different physical beast, isn't it? And I think he might cause some problems for Hadji and make it a bit more difficult. If Howson's in the middle, I'm not picking on him. He's a very good player. But physically, we should be able to get the better of him on Saturday.
Yeah, Simon, it's absolutely right to target him, to be honest. I think for me, it's very much like, can we try and control that central space? So when Hadji Wright does get past like a Howson or tries to cut in, you've got enough bodies there to really limit the space for him to get the shot off or to try and lay something off. I think that's what Boro really need to focus on over the next couple for the 90 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a big game, and please, Hadji, just turn up. It'd be absolutely amazing. We've got some score predictions in, so let's see what the fans think in the comments below. Ian puts a City win just 2-1. Nobby puts 3-0 City. Wayne puts 3-1 Cov, and also off topic, I can never get around my head that Middlesbrough is in Yorkshire. Johnny, thoughts on that?
It's in a position in the country where it can be either considered the northeast or in Yorkshire. So
there it is.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. We're a million miles away.
And Gibbo puts 1-1, hoping for a win, but I still think we may need to rely on other results to see us make the playoffs. So we'll end this stream. Make sure you like and subscribe, please, by doing our score predictions. And Johnny, I'll come to you first.
I think Coventry just do us over. I think it'll be 3-1 Coventry.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I can't see a world in where Middlesbrough don't score because we've got a goalkeeper in goal who is unbelievably unconfident and error prone, and you've got strikers who love taking shots, and you've got a decent attack, even though it may not be cooking quite as highly as it was earlier in the season. So I think I've got it in my head, Johnny, and I don't know if you can see this happening. I've got it in my head that Cov are going to go 2-0 down early on, and then it'll just be
I'll
a
take it.
fight back to try and get it back on level terms and try and win the game. I said it on the podcast on Saturday. I'm going to stick with it. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I don't think
Nice.
that might not help either of us. It might. We might both be gutted by full time. It certainly won't help you. Boro need to win, don't they?
Yeah, we 100% have to. We have to get a result. But I was saying on ours that it wouldn't shock me if this was the game we actually did show up. But then it turns out it wasn't enough, and it was just like because Bristol City won, then Millwall won, and then it was just like, well, that's typical Boro because we've had so many chances to do it. Jesus Christ, everything's fell in our way for the last few weeks. It's like the footballing gods have just been like, go on, go for it, and we've just like, nah, don't worry about it. We don't need the playoffs this time around.
I think it's Bristol City, Middlesbrough, and Cov have got 1 point between them or something since in the games on Easter Monday and last weekend. Just nobody really wants it, do they? And now Millwall and Blackburn are back in the picture. I'm slightly concerned, and this is a thought I've vocalised as well, that we're in a situation where a draw may be enough in some scenarios. If Millwall are, say, drawing against Burnley going into the last 10 minutes, Bristol City, I think, are going to win, so we can forget about them. But say we're in a position where a draw is enough for us, and we're trying to hold on to a draw because you guys are pushing for a win, and then Millwall score a late winner or something, and we get booted out like that. That'll just be heartbreaking. I think it's almost easier in your scenario where you have to win. If you don't win, that's it. Do you agree with that? Am I just worrying now, fretting for no reason?
No, I agree, but I've noticed the shift in Coventry fans this week already. I'm already in my acts. I'm just getting like, oh, we're gonna get your own, we're gonna rinse you, we're gonna beat you. And I was like, yep, you probably are, but I can feel the nervousness. But for us, we're just like on the beach already. We're like, yeah, you be nervous. It's all right. We'll give you a drink when it's over, and we'll laugh it off. So, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Honestly, I'm really intrigued, but I can feel the tension as you're talking to me right now. To be honest, around how nervous you are, but don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Hopefully we'll be fine. As I say, we've always kind of snuck into the playoffs as we did 2 years ago, where we needed a point on the final day, whereas we kind of hit the peak a little too early and have now lost our last 2 games. So it's nerves are quite rightly creeping in. Wayne's put, good to listen to an honest, open opposition guest. Nice one, Jonny. So thank you very much, Jonny, for coming on. I might catch up with you after the game or something. Are you going? You coming down?
I'm not.
You can't
No,
even be bothered to come.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was like, you know what? I was so tempted, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then like I just had these like last results, and I just went, nah, forget about it. Forget. I drive to Nottingham where like most of my time anyway, so I was like, I don't want to do that trip again.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much. We'll see how this goes on Saturday. Like and subscribe, get your comments in down below. Watch back to this if you want preview all week. Cov Pod will be at Finbar's pre-match. So come on down to that if you fancy it. And we will see you after the Middlesbrough game. Thanks very much, guys.